Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're digging into something really cool, a piece of research that basically cracks the code for making our classrooms work for everyone. It's all about unlocking every learner using 3 keys to what's called effective UDL.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a big question, the one that's on everyone's mind. How in the world do we make classrooms work for every single learner? Regardless of their background or what they need to succeed. I mean, that's the dream, right?
And you know that question? It's not just some nice idea. It's more urgent than ever. And that's because of what we're calling the modern classroom challenge. The simple fact is, today's classrooms are just.
Think about it. In any given classroom, you've got this amazing mix of students. You have dual language learners, students with identified disabilities like autism spectrum disorder, kids being monitored for ADHD, the list goes on. It's this huge, wide spectrum of learning styles and needs. So, yeah, the big question is, how do you possibly meet that challenge?
Well, the answer that so many educators are grabbing onto is this really brilliant framework. It's called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL for short. And the core idea? It's actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. Instead of teaching a lesson one way and then trying to patch it up or retrofit it for different students later, you designed the whole thing from the very beginning to be accessible to everyone. And you do that through 3 main ideas: engagement, representation, and expression. And this is so important to get. UDL is not an add-on. It's not something you tack on at the end. It's proactive. It's all about building the supports right into the lesson from the get-go. So you're creating these clear pathways for every single learner to be successful. Okay, so this all sounds great, right? But here's the catch. This is where things get a little tricky. There's this thing researchers call the knowing versus doing gap. Basically, just because teachers know about a fantastic framework like UDL, it doesn't mean it's actually happening effectively in the classroom day to day. And that right there is the heart of the problem we're talking about today. On one side, you've got this incredible promise of UDL. Students who are super engaged, a classroom that's truly accessible for all. But then you have the reality on the ground, where teachers are really struggling to go from planning to do UDL to actually consistently doing it. And hey, this isn't just a feeling teachers have, it's a real recognized gap in the research. This quote here really nails it. We just haven't had a clear picture of what it actually looks like for a teacher to do UDL well every single day. And that right there is exactly what the study we're breaking down today wanted to figure out. So let's do it. Let's go inside the classroom where this research actually happened. And this wasn't some lab experiment, okay? This was an action research project, a real-world, in-the-trenches look at what makes UDL click. The classroom they studied, it was a perfect snapshot of that modern diversity we were just talking about. Get this, it was a preschool class with 16 kids. 5 of them were on the autism spectrum, 5 were dual language learners, and 1 was being monitored for ADHD. This is precisely the kind of place where you need UDL to work. So, after weeks of watching, collecting data, analyzing everything, the research found something huge. It wasn't just that UDL worked, but why it worked. They found the specific conditions needed. They basically uncovered 3 essential keys to making it all happen. And here they are, the 3 big ones, the absolute non-negotiables. It all boils down to this: data-driven decisions, intentional planning time, and having your materials in place. So simple, right? Let's break down what each of those really means. Okay, key number 1, data-driven decisions. This is huge. The strategies that actually worked weren't just pulled out of a hat. Nope, they were a direct response to a specific need that they identified using data. Everything from watching the kids in class to looking at their IEPs to talking with parents. For instance, they heard from parents about home languages and bam, they started bringing those languages into the classroom more. That's data in action. All right, key number 2, intentional planning. And listen, this one was absolutely critical. The research showed that success literally depended on teachers having dedicated, uninterrupted time. Time to meet, to talk through the strategies, and to really get on the same page about the why behind what they were doing. It just wasn't something they could squeeze in on the fly. And this quote from the study really tells the whole story. There was one week where a bunch of admin meetings just ate up all their planning time. And guess what happened? The UDL strategy they had planned, it just didn't work well. It was only after the teachers stayed late to plan on their own time that the strategy started to be effective. If that doesn't prove how vital that protected time is, I don't know what does. And that brings us to the 3rd and final key, materials in place. You could say this is where the rubber meets the road. It wasn't enough to just have a great plan on paper.
The teachers needed all the stuff, the physical materials, especially visual supports like schedules and checklists, printed, laminated, and ready to go before the lesson ever began.
So what's the payoff? What happens when you have all three of these keys working together? The data, the planning, and the materials. Well, according to the study, the results were, and I'm not exaggerating, transformative. For everyone.
Let's talk about the students first. The change was just incredible. Engagement shot way up, both in their learning and with each other. The kids felt more empowered. And get this is the amazing part. They started to take charge of their own learning. They were independently using checklists and managing their own transitions between activities. The very students who had been the most disconnected were suddenly right in the mix, participating.
And it wasn't just about the kids either. The teachers saw huge benefits too. They said they felt less stressed. They felt more confident that they could actually meet the needs of all these different learners. And their whole attitude about UDL changed because they could see with their own eyes that it wasn't just more work. It was a tool that actually supported them.
So really, it all comes down to this one number, 3. That's the key. The research was totally clear on this point. If even one of those 3 pieces was missing, the data, the planning, or the materials, the strategy just didn't work as well. Or sometimes it didn't happen at all. You need all 3. It's a package deal.
And that really leaves us with one final thought as we wrap this up. Thinking about these 3 keys, whether you're a teacher, a school leader, or even a parent, what's one small, intentional step you could take in your world to help unlock learning for all the kids you know?